Welcome again. This idea of being a dad is a lot of work. How many agree with that? A lot of work. And today I want us to talk a little bit about that, and I want to aim the message at dads, but the rest of you can listen in. In other words, no, you cannot leave. You have to listen in, okay? Because some of you one day will be dads, and some of you will be married to dads, and so somewhere there's a connection to everyone today. But I want us to stop for just a second and focus on this idea of leaving a legacy of wisdom. Leaving a legacy of wisdom. I don't know if many of you remember several years ago we had a gentleman named Mark Gungor, and we had him down. In fact, we worked with another church, with Florida Bible, and we had a marriage conference with them, and Mark Gungor was the teacher. Later they translated, and we've had the videos in English and in Spanish, and if you haven't, it's certainly worth getting on YouTube and finding Mark Gungor, talking about marriage and different things like that. But he wrote an article, and it was something very, very interesting, and it was entitled 3 Studies and 1 Conclusion. 3 studies and 1 conclusion. And the first study was done by the Swiss government. So again, this has nothing to do, it didn't come from a church, so it was just the government, and the government was trying to find out what influenced the next generation and their religious activities. And they came to this conclusion: it is the religious practice of the father of the family, above all, that determines the future attendance of the children. Again, it's the religious practice of the father of the family that, above all, determines the future attendance of the children. They went through and they gave 3 scenarios, and it's a bunch of numbers, and I just want you to fill it out if you would, please. First of all, they checked if both mother and father attend church regularly. What happens to the children? Well, in their study, it came out that 33% of their children will end up attending church on a regular basis through life. When mother and father both attend, 33 end up attending, 25% of the children end up not attending. So when mom and dad both go to church regularly, 33% of the kids make that a part of their life. 25% decide not to. Those are their choices. But this is the influence. But notice this. If mother attends regularly, but father does not, here's what happens. 2% of the children end up attending long term. And 60% end up not attending long term. Third, if father attends but mother does not, in that case, 44% of the children end up attending, and 34 of the children will end up not attending. Now, when you look at this scenario, the first thing that I do, and I'll be honest, I'm almost embarrassed reading these things. And the first thing I thought as I was going through these things, these statistics, I'm going, every mom that comes to church with her kids and the dad doesn't come is probably going to leave here in massive depression. Okay? A few single moms are just going to go ahead and end their life in the parking lot. Because they say no matter what we do, it's not going to make a bit of difference. And may I stop and say, no, that's not what this study is trying to get us to. Ultimately, if you're a young person in this room, it's your choice. And it's on you. It's not on your parents. These are just statistics that kind of help us see the big picture and the influence. So this was study number 1 done by the Swiss government. But there was a second study released by Baptist Press. Now obviously this is a church-based thing, And they looked at a different area. It wasn't just attendance. But this is one thing that they found that I found very, very important. It said, if the mother is the first to become a Christian in the household, then there is a 17% probability that everybody else in the household will also become a Christian. 17% if mother is the first one. But if father is the first one to become a Christian, then there is a 93% probability that the rest of the family will become Christians also. Now, when I look at this as a pastor, one of the things that I say is one of the focuses that churches should have is on reaching men. Why? Because if we can reach the man, the head of the family, there is a 93% chance and probability that we will get the rest of the family. Now, that does not mean that we don't aim for women, okay? Don't go from one to the other. But we need to constantly be thinking, what do we need to do to reach the man in the family? Why? Because then we stand a better chance of reaching everybody else. Then there was a third study done. MSNBC, obviously nothing to do with religious background. MSNBC did a study of how fathers influence their children and their moral factor. It said teenagers whose fathers are more involved in their lives are less likely to engage in risky sexual activities such as unprotected intercourse. While an involved mother can also help stave off teen sexual activity, dads have twice the influence. If we just stopped right now, I think there's enough reason for us all to commit suicide. Oh my gosh, how depressing. I can't think of a guy in here that says, man, I'm glad we've got all that responsibility on us. Most guys don't want the pressure. Most guys would just as soon mama take care of this stuff and we'll just kind of slide on through. But the bottom line is, through no great reason of our own, not because we asked for it, simply humanity seems to be wired in a way that dads have an immense influence on what happens with their children. Now, that's a big responsibility. I have this feeling that the day that we stand before the Lord, giving account, as we all will, giving account of our lives, I think there will be some things that God expects out of us as fathers that is more than everyone else. Why? Because one conclusion to all of this is in Luke chapter 12 and verse 48. And it says, when someone has been given much, much will be required in return. When someone has been entrusted with much, even more will be required. Psalm 127 verse 3 says, children are a gift, an inheritance of the Lord. He puts them in our hands, and it says, and they're like arrows in the hands of a strong man. All of you who are dads, whether you intended to be it or not, God has put some arrows in your hand. He has entrusted you with much, and he will require from you much. This isn't something we play with. These kids that God has given us are a big deal. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? I remember the day they had the baby shower for Sarah my daughter-in-law, and it was at the end of her baby shower. Ryan comes up to me and goes, Dad, don't want you to say anything, but Sarah thinks she's about to have the baby. And it was a little early, and I said, okay, I can keep it quiet, and you just go into the hospital. And he goes away, and then he comes back and says, Dad, how do you know, when did you know you were ready to be a dad? And I said, the day you left home. He has still not forgiven me for that. It's a stronghold in his life, and he brings it up every now and then. He said, I'm expecting this affirmation, and you're going, well, the bottom line is, guys, we're never really ready. But the amazing thing is God can give us every single day exactly what we need for right then. I don't know of a dad here that is ready for a teenager when they're born. And they're so cute when they're little. And then they turn into middle schoolers. They're amazing. And then teenagers. But you know, God gives us each day what we need. And again, the point about this study is not to leave here in depression. But I want us to take this and say, okay, now how can we take this, realizing the amazing thing that we've been given, the influence, the impact, what can we do with it? Well, let me give you 3 statements and 1 question. First statement is this: fathers, lead your children to wisdom, because wisdom comes with many benefits. Lead your children to wisdom. Listen to what it says in Proverbs chapter 2, and I'm going to read it. If you've got your Bible there or your phone, I'm reading it out of the New Living Translation. Proverbs chapter 2, verse 2. Tune your ears to wisdom. Concentrate on understanding. Cry out for insight and ask for understanding. Search for them as you would for silver. Seek them like hidden treasures. Then you will understand what it means to fear the Lord, and you will gain knowledge of God. For the Lord grants wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. He grants a treasure of common sense to the honest. He is a shield to those who walk with integrity. He guards the paths of the just and protects those who are faithful to him. Then you will understand what is right, just, and fair, and you will find the right way to go. For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will fill you with joy. Wise choices will watch over you. Understanding will keep you safe. Wisdom will save you from evil people, from those whose words are twisted. Fathers, how many of you want this for your kids? Anybody? Oh, yeah. You're not around all the time, but if they've got wisdom, wisdom itself will do all of these things. Notice what it says in Proverbs chapter 3, beginning down in verse 13. It says, joyful is the person who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding. For wisdom is more profitable than silver, and her wages are better than gold. Wisdom is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. She offers you long life in her right hand and riches and honor in her left. She will guide you down delightful paths. All her ways are satisfying. Wisdom is the tree of life to those who embrace her. Happy are those who hold her tightly. By wisdom the Lord founded the earth. By understanding he created the heavens. By his knowledge the deep fountains of the earth burst forth, and the dew settles behind the night sky. My child, don't lose sight of common sense and discernment. Hang on to them, for they will refresh your soul. They're like jewels on a necklace. They keep you safe on your way, and your feet will not stumble. You can go to bed without fear. You will lie down and sleep soundly. You need not be afraid of sudden disaster or the destruction that comes upon the wicked, for the Lord is your security. He will keep your feet from being caught in a trap. Do not withhold good from those who deserve it. Now think about that. when you go after wisdom, when you point your children to wisdom, they get all of these things in with it. Discernment, understanding, common sense, which is not very common, I might add. All these things that happen. Protection. They don't have to be afraid of the destruction. No, it says if you will give them wisdom, that package of wisdom has so many other benefits. You want to take them to wisdom. And you dads are going, okay, what's wisdom? Where do you buy it? Where do you get it? Let me tell you something, it's free. See, the book of Proverbs is full of wisdom. I mean, it is full of wisdom. Let's define wisdom for just a second. You can write this on the side. This is free, don't charge anything. Okay? Wisdom is connecting the dots between a good life and a wise life. It's connecting the dots. It's helping you figure out, oh, this has to do with this. Oh, that has to do with that. It's connecting the dots. Last week at our middle school retreat, we had a great time, and on Saturday, I had looked forward to Saturday a whole lot. I looked forward to that for a long time. I found this connect the dots puzzle thing that had 700 and some odd dots on it. And I gave it all to them. But I erased the numbers. And I said, okay, here you go. Connect all the dots together. And man, it was interesting. They're connecting it, and after they're doing it all, they go, okay. I said, okay, now name what you just drew. And the names they came up with for these things were amazing. I mean, it was something else. And then they showed everybody. And then James comes up. And James had this guy on a horse with his shield, with his sword out. And they're all looking at it like, how did you get that? And he passes it around, and they did exactly what I knew they would do. They looked at it and go, wait, that's not fair. You had the numbers. Let me ask you something. How many of you think it might be easier to do a connect the dots if the numbers were on the sheet of paper? Oh, a lot more. Let me tell you something. It's a whole lot easier to have a good life when you know the numbers to follow. When you don't know the numbers, I mean, you just imagine stuff. I mean, some of them had these science projects that came out. I like the one that said, this is modern art. In other words, I have no clue what it is, but I'll sell it to you for a lot of money. And all this stuff. Listen, the book of Proverbs is full of wisdom, but, here's the big but, you have to tune your ear to it. You have to tune your ear to it. Listen what it says back in Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 20. Wisdom shouts in the streets. She cries out in the public square. She calls to the crowds along the main streets, those gathered in front of the city gate. How long, you simpletons, will you insist on being simple-minded? How long will you mockers relish your mocking? How long will you fools hate knowledge? Come, listen to my counsel. I'll share my heart with you and make you wise. I called you so often, but you wouldn't come. I reached out to you, but you paid no attention. You ignored my advice and rejected the correction I offered. Verse 30. 1. Therefore, they must eat the bitter fruit of living their own way, choking on their own schemes. For simpletons turn away from me to death. Fools are destroyed by their own complacency, but all who listen to me will live in peace, untroubled by fear of harm. It's there. Every day, you and I hear 3,000 messages. 3,000 messages. This comes from advertisers, from teachers, from parents, from entertainers, from peers. Every day we hear 3,000 messages, but we choose who we will listen to. Have you ever played that game where they put an obstacle course up and they blindfold you? And then they just say, just listen to what people are saying and walk through. What happens? Well, if you're blindfolded, man, you hear so many things. Some people are yelling stuff at you and they want you to fail. Do you ever have something like that in your game? They want you to trip over, fall, whatever. Other people are saying it, but they're looking at it from a different angle. They go left, so you go left, and no, that's right, the other left, and everybody gets all crazy. The only way to make it in that game is stop, pick a voice that you trust, and leave everybody else out. Listen to it. It's the only way to make it through that game and survive. Well, let me tell you something. You and I have so many voices to hear. We better stop and choose who we're going to listen to. Parents, let me help you something. When your kids were in elementary school, you were the biggest voice they had. They listened to you above everything till about the 4th grade. And then around 4th grade, they started figuring out there were other people talking. By the time they get to middle school, yeah, you're still there. But you are definitely not the first one they're listening to. You know what's even worse? Pastor's way the heck down the list of people they're listening to. Way down the list. So what can we do? The only thing we can do is help them see that the voice of wisdom is who they need to listen to more than anyone else. See, every voice invites us to a different path to follow. We must look down the road to see where the path is leading. It says in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 12, there is a way that seems right to man, but the end thereof is the way of death. The way of death. There's everybody that's doing something, think I'm on the right path. But how many times have we been going down what we thought was the right path, only to figure out, oops, I wasted 8 years on the wrong path. We have the ladder, and we're climbing the corporate ladder only to figure out we had it on the wrong wall. All of these things, you have to constantly be thinking and looking down. The only one that can look down the road far enough is God. And He's the one giving you direction. Every day, we have to learn to follow Him. Parents, fathers, we must tune our ear and help tune our children's ear to wisdom. But not only that, it's not just a matter of tuning our ear. You must diligently seek for it. See, wisdom doesn't just come with age. The only thing that just comes with age is gravity. We won't describe that much further. But it just does. Everything just drops. Our hair falls out. We'll just leave it right there. It just drops. Anyway, it just drops. That comes with age. Wisdom doesn't come with age. I know a lot of stupid old people. Anybody else know that? There's a lot of stupid old people. Some run for president, but that's a different issue. We must diligently seek for wisdom. It's not just going to happen. We have to work at it. Proverbs chapter 4, verses 5 says this: get wisdom, develop good judgment, don't forget my words and turn away from them. Don't turn your back on wisdom, for she will protect you. Love her and she will guard you. Getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. And whatever else you do, develop good judgment. If you prize wisdom, she will make you great. Embrace her and she will honor you. She will place a lovely wreath on your head. She will present you with a beautiful crown. My child, listen to me. Do as I said and you will have a long, good life. I will teach you wisdom's ways and lead you in straight paths. When you walk, you won't be held back. When you run, you won't stumble. Take hold of my instruction. Don't let them go. Guard them, for they are the key to life. It gets to chapter 8, Proverbs 8, verse 17. And it says, I love all those who love me. Those who search will surely find me. I have riches and honor, as well as enduring wealth and justice. My gifts are better than gold, even the purest gold. My wages better than sterling silver. I walk in righteousness, in paths of justice. Those who love me inherit wealth. I will fill their treasuries. Everything you as a dad want for your children can be found in wisdom. But you have to help them tune their ears to it. You have to help them diligently seek for it. So many times we say things to our kids, and in their mind they're going, where did you get that from? And you know what? Sometimes we don't even know where we got it from. Sometimes we've heard it. We've heard it for generations. And it may be absolutely wrong, but we still say it. Any of you ever said something to your kids that your parents said to you, and then you found out it was wrong? Raise your hand. Yeah. You know, if you wash your hair, we won't get into all these things. Anyway, what I'm saying, you as a parent need to be able to back up the words you're saying with this. And when the kids say, where do you get that from? Say, look, it says right here, Solomon, smartest guy around, a lot smarter than I am, said this. When you go here, when you're going to what wisdom says, now, if they don't like it, it's not with you. How many agree at some point kids are probably going to rebel against us or things we say? That's going to happen. But put God up there. Put what he said. Instruct them diligently. Lead them to wisdom. How do you do that, Russ? Here it is. Fathers, teach your children to fish. Now, some of you, this is the first interesting thing you've heard in the message all day. You're going, where's this been all my life? But let me help you on this a little bit. Here's the statement. Give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. I went looking on who said that, and it's amazing. No one knows exactly who said it, and it's kind of been used over and over and changed a little bit by a lot of people, but it's very true. No, this is not in Proverbs, so don't spend all day looking for it in Proverbs. Okay? But it is smart. In other words, you have to learn how to fish, and then you can teach your kids how to do the same thing. You learn to find wisdom, and then you help them find wisdom. You find out from the Lord, from the Bible, how to make wise decisions, and then you teach them how to make wise decisions based on what the Bible said, not on just following what you say. because you're not going to be around all the time. When you're dead and gone, or when you live far away, they still need to know. Teach them how to fish. Now, how do you do that? Well, let me recommend a way that was recommended to me years ago. You take the challenge, and it's simply called a Proverb-a-Day challenge. A proverb a day. What's today's date? The 19th. So what proverb would be for today's proverb? 19. Let's pretend you slept late tomorrow, you missed it, and so on Tuesday you pick it up. What proverb should you read that day? Very good. The last time someone said 20, and I thought, okay, we got to help them. 22. Whatever the date is, go that day. I'm amazed how no matter what day of the month it is, when I go to the proverb of that day, God has something there to teach me. It's amazing to me. Now, but you got to dig. You got to tune your ear. How do you do that? And these are the steps you can help. Now, I could get the middle school up here and they could tell you these steps, because that's what we did. But I want, because they may have forgotten. Anyway, number one, you got to read the proverb. You got to read it. Just get the proverb. Today, proverb number 19, and you start. Better to be poor and honest than to be dishonest and a fool. Well, that's pretty good. And you keep reading. Enthusiasm without knowledge is no good. Haste makes mistakes. And all of a sudden you go, wait, Russell, what does one have to do with two? The amazing thing about the book of Proverbs is one verse doesn't have to say or have anything to do with the next one or the one before. That's one of the things that make it kind of difficult for those who like order. And it's heaven for all of you ADD people. You're just bouncing around all over the place. This is so cool. I don't have to find the line. There you go. Okay, so the first thing you do is you read it. But the second thing you do is you have to sort the verses by subject. In other words, what's the main subject in each of these? And you go down and you simply, in a page beside it, say, okay, in verse 1, we have this subject. In verse 2, this is the subject. In verse 3, this is the subject. Now, the interesting part is, next month when you come back, you may see it a little different. You may, one part of the verse may jump out, or you may have a couple of subjects in there. But you get it by subject. The third thing you do after you've sorted, you focus on just one subject. Now, ADD people, this is where you got to take your meds and follow through, okay? Pick one thing. One thing. And just say, okay, now let me take this one thing. And today, I want to figure out how can I apply this one thing to my life? How do I apply this subject to my life? As you're trying to figure out how to apply it, here's two questions to help you. Is there anything in this verse concerning this subject that I need to start doing? Is there anything I need to start doing? Maybe it says, if you do this and this good thing will happen, and I'm not doing that, I need to start doing what it says. Or, as I'm reading this, is there anything I need to stop doing? If it says, a fool does this, you don't want to be a fool, right? So stop doing what the fool says. If you line up all the verses that have to do with the fool, and you find yourself in a bunch of them, stop doing that. When it says the lazy person and the fool have something in common, it says they just kind of roll over from one side of the bed to the other, or I can't do this because there's a lion outside, or there's always something bad going on. Then stop doing that. See, applying it is not this major, I have to figure out the depths of some great wisdom. No, usually it's very simple things that you start doing or you stop doing. Now you've done it all on paper. Now here's the big part. Now you have to obey what you were shown. See, it's one thing to know that you need to stop doing something, and it's something else to actually stop doing it. It's one thing to know that you should start doing something, and it's something else to actually start doing it. So we have to do that now. Invariably, when you get to this point, it's where the mind starts doing things. You come up with excuses, well, but see, I can't do that in my situation. In other words, there is a crisis of belief that comes up because you figure out that your situation is probably different than what Solomon was talking about. Let me help you. You're not the exception. If Solomon says this is the wise thing to do, it's the wise thing for you to do. If Solomon in here and in the Proverbs said, this is something you need to stop doing, you can't say, well, but in my job, I can't make it if I stop doing that. No. Trust the wisdom of God and stop doing it. There'll always be a crisis. There will probably be some adjustments that you need to make to your life. Some adjustments. Why? Because let's be honest, none of us have quite made it up to the level of Jesus yet. Would you agree with that? So we have to keep making adjustments. No matter how many times I go through the book of Proverbs, no matter how many times I see something, I never cease to be amazed that even though I've been doing this for years, I still find things that I need to adjust. That I need to adjust in my life. Now here's the bottom line. Some things may be difficult, but none of them will be impossible. It's amazing when Jesus was talking with his disciples, he would tell them things, and sometimes they would say, that's very hard. And it may have been hard, but it wasn't impossible to do. He never asked us to do the impossible. Sometimes he asks us to do what's difficult. Now, this is how we find wisdom. We have to dig for it. And you do this, and you do it over and over and over again. Let me ask you something. When you want a diamond, what are you going to have to do to find the diamond? Now, those of you who think they come in jewelry stores, no, they have to go somewhere and get them first. When you want a diamond, you've got to dig in really hard places to get. It's not like getting a mango in the summertime. I mean, that's kind of like, they're falling off trees. But wisdom isn't like that. It's much more precious. You have to dig. You have to work. You have to be diligent in it. But when you get it, it says it over and over. It is so much more precious than silver or gold or anything else you can have. When you get it, when you've got wisdom, oh, it will so help you in life. Would you believe that there are people out there with some get-rich-quick schemes that are actually lying to you? Anybody know that? Did you know that their stuff comes up in Facebook and on the internet that they are lying to you when you see it? You got that? You realize that even if they're in the business section of some of the books, they're lying to you? Everybody got that? Yep. But wisdom will help you see that. Wisdom and finding the person that's behind the wisdom that is Jesus, that will protect you in life. It will guide you in life. It will help you make those wise choices so that you don't have to pay the price for the unwise things that come up. 3 statements, 1 question. Fathers, will you leave behind a legacy of light or darkness? Light or darkness? Listen to what it says, Proverbs 4:18. The way of the righteous is like the first gleam of dawn, which shines ever brighter until the full light of day. As most of you know, I love to ride bicycles. At this time of year in particular, the best time to ride is 5 in the morning. Why? Because it's not as hot as at 12 or later in the day. It's stinking hot around here. But at 5 in the morning, it's still kind of okay. But when I go out, or when we go out, when we go together, we have a light on the back of the seat that's really bright. It's like several hundred lumens. It's just like that. And then we put another one on the back of our helmet that's really, really bright. And when I go out by myself, I steal her headlight and put it on mine, and I put that where I can actually see it's in full beam. And then I take the other one, again, 500 lumens, and it's blinking. Occasionally, we used to have, on mine, I used to have one, and Bev still has it, where all along we look like Christmas trees going down Flamingo at the bottom. I mean, we are just bling, 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 bling. We just want everybody to see where we are. Okay. About dawn, you begin to see something over here, because I'm usually going north at that time. And the little light starts, all of a sudden, I don't need the bright light in front to see where I'm going. I can turn that one off and save the battery. Just leave the blinking so that the blinkety-blink people will see me coming down the line. But within a few minutes, it goes from it's been really dark, and then it gets a little lighter and lighter and lighter, and then all of a sudden, you can see everything. It's an amazing thing now. Now, some of you, especially teenagers, when you don't go to school, you've never seen this happen when the sun comes out in the morning. But it is an amazing thing. Okay? And it says when we walk in wisdom, when we walk the way of the righteous, it's like the first gleam of light, but it just gets brighter and brighter to the full light of day. See, dads, when you're giving your children wisdom, they may not get it all at some point. But the longer they're exposed to it, the more they see the light, the brighter it gets. When they were in middle school, they looked at you and the things you were saying and go, man, my dad is really dense. I mean, he just doesn't get it. But if you'll be consistent with the wisdom God gives you, as life goes on, they'll figure out, wow, that made a lot of sense. I love it when I hear my son say to his children stuff I used to say to him, and he didn't buy it. And I look at him and I just smile, and he looks and goes, I know. It's wonderful. It's this joy of, yes, it got through. But look what it says in the next verse. But the way of the wicked is like total darkness. They have no idea what they're stumbling. It's like they're going in life and they're bumping into walls and they're falling into holes and and they don't have a clue as to why. That's so sad. That is so sad. We have the light available. We have the wisdom of God through Solomon right here. We have the one who is the epitome of wisdom. It is Jesus, and we have it right here if we know him as our Savior. And all we have to do is teach our children to walk in the light. This morning when I got up, I go into another room. The first thing I do is turn my phone on, And if you send me something during the night, it's very important, but I will not get it till I wake up because I cut my phone off. And so I turned it on, and the first thing I got this morning was a message from Ryan. And it was he's 5 hours ahead, so he was sending me a Father's Day message, and then after I responded, he sent me this. Let me try that again. What is that? My grandkids said, "Love you, Granddad." Let me tell you something. After that, I don't care what any jerk says to me in the rest of the day. It makes no difference. It's like, who cares? There is something so wonderful about being a dad. Let me back up. There's something so wonderful about being a granddad. Being a dad is real good. Being a granddad is just a whole lot better. We won't get into explaining. If you don't have them, you don't get it. It's a total mystery. But let me tell you something. Here's the deal. Then I called my dad. And see, and there's a generation to generation to generation to generation. Let me tell you something. One of the greatest things about the wisdom that is here, it doesn't die out with a given generation. It's just as applicable to my grandsons as it is to my dad. And everywhere along the way, each one of us will choose to follow it, to ignore it, and we will live the consequences of that choice. Yes, we will. If you're a young person here today and your dad doesn't come to church and you say, "Hey, I can slip out." Hey, let me tell you something. You can be part of that statistic, but it's on your head. Nothing to do with your dad. It's nothing to do with your mom. It has to do with you. You can choose to be wise, or you can choose to be a fool. It's up to you. But the wisdom that God offers us is good for every generation that comes up. It never gets old. It never goes out of style. It never is irrelevant. Because God's wisdom will last forever. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my word, Jesus said, will not.